Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. Coming up this week, we're going to tell you what rookie mistakes to avoid with Disney Vacation Club on this episode of the DVC Show. The DVC Show is brought to you by DVCstore.com. You can save thousands of dollars by purchasing your DVC contract with DVCstore.com. Let their resale experts help welcome you home. And by DisBoards.com. If you want to learn everything you'll ever need to know about Disney Vacation Club, visit the DVC forums on disboards.com and join in the conversation. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show, coming to you from the Bob Varley Studio in Orlando, Florida. I'm your host, Pete Werner, joined at the table this week by my good friends, Jackie Gailey.
Hi, everyone.
From the DVC store, Mr. Jerry Saito.
Hello.
Joining us via Skype, Mr. Pete Scheidley.
Hi there.
And back on the controls, our associate producer, Mr. Corey Fiasconaro.
Welcome home.
Oh, look, he's got his own little thing now. Isn't that cute?
Like that.
Baby's all grown up, saving China. Okay, so I'm not going to plug anything. We're just going to get right into this. Okay, sign up for their mailer. Go to dvcfan.com. Check out the blog. Check out the Facebook group.
Yeah, come
Okay?
play.
Come play.
There you go.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the last show. Rookie mistakes. Now, look, in all honesty, let's, for the sake of transparency here, I'm a rookie, man. I'm a rookie. I only joined DVC the end of February
Yeah.
of this year, of 2019. And so I'm only in this game now for, 3 or 4, not even 4 months yet. Now, granted, A, I'm a quick study. B, I'm totally into it. So when I'm into something, I'm like a sponge. C, I'm doing this. So I've really been pushing myself to learn as much as I can, read as much as I can. But it really is why I am so proud of the ecosystem we've created on the Diz, especially with the boards, because so much of what I've learned has been through our discussion boards. Honest to God, incredible information. And it really makes me happy that the traffic to our DVC forums is growing by leaps and bounds every month, as more and more people are finding them, and it does my heart good. So some of my rookie mistakes, what would have been rookie mistakes, were avoided by that. And then there are the rookie mistakes you get by not listening to your
agent.
your resale agent, who said, "Do everything with the same use here."
Definitely makes it easier for you. Just keeps everything under the same account, membership number, so forth.
And I'm good. Now I'm juggling 3 different uses, and so now when I buy something, they have to fit, because then I get OCD about it. And I got to make sure each use here has about the same number of points. So it's kind of crazy. But that was my first rookie mistake, was not listening to that piece of advice, because it is a pain in the neck.
Yeah. I can
Managing them. I'm like, oh, it shouldn't be fun. Do it all online. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes it easier because, you can buy 2 different users. I actually have 2 different users myself, but it's just so much easier. You can pull points from one account. You can make your reservations from one account. You can bank the points from that same account. You don't have to manage 2 different accounts. It's kind of like having a bank account, or 2 different bank accounts.
Or 3.
Yeah, or 3 for that matter. Wouldn't you want to have all your money in that one place and you just pull it from there and not have to juggle between? That's why.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so that was I think probably, my big rookie mistake. I think my other one was in not realizing that I could make offers.
Yeah.
One of the shows we recently did, we talked about that. Was not realizing I could make offers. Although on my first resale, there's no way I was going to ask for less, because it was Boulder Ridge, $89 a point. That was insane.
Already heavily discounted, yeah.
So
That was crazy.
yeah,
that went
250
through.
points, Boulder Ridge, $89 a point, international seller.
Right.
And now it's Disney doesn't really usually take back those international seller ones. But what about you guys? Rookie mistakes to avoid for a new DVC member.
Well, one of the things I learned quickly when I started researching this was that you really wanted to be choosy with which contract you decided to make an offer on. And when I learned that there were contracts that were being sold on the resale market that had points existing already, then I waited for one of those. So, and I read that on the boards that could happen. And so once I learned that, that was something that we were really careful about, because if you pay a certain number, a certain amount of money for a contract, it's like a freebie to get last year's points included. I mean, the maintenance dues are already paid on it. So it's, that's.
Okay, but you see now, you bring up something good. You're right. Those front-loaded contracts are so attractive, right?
Yeah.
But I'm paying a lot of attention right now to the strip contracts because, and just so people understand what we're talking about with front-loaded and strip. Front-loaded means at the time of closing, there's a lot of points available. So you may see a listing that's 150 points a year, but it has 300 points available because they banked last year's points into this use year. A strip contract is just the opposite. Before they put it up for sale, they used up all the points. And there were no points coming on until like next year. And so why would I want one of those? Because that was one of my first thoughts. But then I realized, especially if I'm doing add-ons, and especially if I'm not looking to add on 25 points or 50 points, but I want to add on 250, you're going to save money.
Right.
If you don't need those points right now, if you don't absolutely desperately need those points right now, you're going to save money because those strip contracts are priced less than the front-loaded ones.
And you don't have the maintenance fees on the points that are missing. The seller's going to pay the dues because they use the points, so it's their responsibility. So that saves you on the annual cost as well, the maintenance fee. So.
Right.
Yeah, that definitely makes
So
sense.
there's that too.
Yeah.
So Pete, what about you?
So I bought with the intention of renting studios. I think the one thing I didn't really understand as much as I did after I bought was how difficult it can be to get into studios, especially at certain times of year. So, we had bought we had done our contract, or I put the offer in March, and by the time it had closed, it was May or something like that. And my wife and I were decided, we had like 128 points we had to use by December. And I was like, oh, no problem. We'll book something in October, November, no problem. May, there was nothing. There was nothing left for us for a studio. Now, fortunately, we had enough points. We ended up booking a one-bedroom at Saratoga Springs, and it was fine. We were there for 4 nights. We used all but 3 of the points, so we used our points. But I think, that was not something I was aware of up front, and that's probably why I started that availability thread, was realizing how difficult it can be to get into studios. The other thing I wanted to mention on this was I'm seeing people do it on Riviera, and so I want to bring this up. I see people saying, we're going to get a contract, and we'll just get a small contract, and we can just book the tower studio.
Yeah, no.
And you see this at Animal Kingdom, too. Oh, we're going to get a small contract, and we'll just do value rooms. And, I mean, those tower, for anyone thinking about Riviera, there's 20 of those rooms. Those are going to be very popular. Do not buy a contract with only enough points to go into a tower studio for 7 nights, because you're going to be fighting for those rooms, and you're not always going to get them.
That was one of the pieces of advice on the boards that I'm really glad I listened to. Buy like you're going to stay in 1 bedrooms. Buy where you want to stay, and buy like you're going to stay in 1 bedrooms. And then worst case scenario, you've got extra points, as opposed to the strategy of, I'm going to buy at Saratoga because it's the cheapest, and then I'm going to book Grand Floridian Studios in October.
Right.
No, you're not.
Nope.
You're not going to book any studios in a 7-month window, except in Saratoga. I mean, that's
right.
And if you can afford that, I think that's an excellent strategy. If you can afford 1 bedrooms, that's the way to go. But for people that can't, I just think look at what's what's the majority of the studios. Again, Riviera, 25% of it is standard, 75% is preferred. Be ready that if you don't book right at 11 months, you might end up in a preferred studio. Make sure you have enough points to get that.
Yeah, but generally speaking, I think most people are in that 150 to 250 point range, which, depending on where and when, is enough for a week in a one bedroom.
Right.
I mean,
it is. Yeah, you're right.
It's when people are talking about, I'm going to buy 75 points, and I'm going to book that value room at Animal Kingdom Lodge 3 months before I want to go. No, that's not going to happen.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, now DVC has, Pete was talking about Riviera, and these tower studios now that sleep 2, they're smaller units, and they are seeing how popular these are already. And the resort hasn't even opened yet, and people are losing their crap over these tower
Definitely.
studios.
Yes.
Because they're like, like what, 12 points a night or something?
Yes.
I mean,
I think 11's the 11 or 12 is like the lowest one.
As he pointed out, it's like 20 of them.
Right.
There's going to be 20 of them. I mean, right now I think there's only, because they only open so many at a time, right? I think there's only 6 that are actually declared.
I thought 9. I thought it was 9, but you could be right.
Maybe 9. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I could be wrong, but anyways, they're not all declared even. So right now, there's only so many that are open, and if everybody's buying to go into these rooms, you're not getting in them.
That's right.
No, isn't that crazy too? The people, because you just don't realize. People just don't realize.
Right, they see it on the point chart. They assume that it's going to be available.
Right.
Like, I can stay in that. Like again,
Exactly.
the concierge rooms at Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
Very hard to get. The value rooms at Animal Kingdom. Again.
Yep. People that are just researching this stuff, they don't know those kinds of things.
Right.
And so it's really important to realize that, because you're making this huge investment, and it makes you really mad if you can't book what you want. Right. And you just assume that, oh, well, they have these, so they're going to be available.
Right.
No.
Jerry, what about you?
I think the biggest mistake, but you guys are kind of hitting on it, is not buying enough points. Like, buying a 75 pointer. There are so many people that either have add-on itis or just didn't buy the right size in the beginning part of the process. So, make sure that you buy with a buffer. Like, okay, I'm going to buy 120 points because that'll cover me for a studio for a week. But you probably should buy 150 to have that cushion, to get you into that, one bedroom if you need to. Or if you're looking at a 200 pointer, maybe go to a 220. Just having enough points, because eventually you will call me or the office and say, I need to add on some more points.
And don't you think it's just easier to buy more points up front?
If you can afford it, yeah.
Just to buy, if you can. I mean, because I hear this a lot, and I did it too, and I was even mindful of it, and I still did it, was saying, okay, this is how I'm going to use them. And I figure I'll be okay, because I think I originally started saying I'd be fine with like 700 or 750. Now, keep in mind, I know that my situation is very different. I stay at the resorts a lot. My family comes down here all the time, and I love them, but I don't want them staying with me. So I always put them up in hotels. I like to go out to Aulani. I've been out to Aulani several times. I'm looking forward to eventually doing it as a DVC member. And I figured, okay, I quickly found out, that we're lobsters. We grow to the size of our tank. So if you give me 750 points, I'm going to figure out how to use 750 points. And given my personality, I'm going to figure out how to use them in the span of about 10 minutes. And then it's like, oh, no more points. I need more points. So for example, next December, God willing, my mother will celebrate her 90th birthday.
Uh-huh.
And so now I want to be able to bring a lot of family down. I want to do it on property. I have very specific vision about how I want to do this and how many points I'm going to need to do it. I already have 3 trips planned this year for my family who are coming down, putting them on property. So absolutely overestimate what you think you're going to need. Whatever you think you're going to need, add 20%.
Yep.
or more.
I actually say that exactly when people on the boards post you see that question a lot on the boards. I'm new to DVC. How many points should I buy? And it's a tough question to answer when they post that broadly. But
I think
say
we should just
exactly
start
that.
answering that with all of them.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I say, look at the charts and figure out what you think you need based on the type of room you want, and then I always say, then add 20%, because I completely agree with you and Jerry's comment that when you buy that first contract, you think you know what you need, but it turns out you're going to need more.
See, but I also think, we talked in a previous show about Fiasco and, his mindset about how he'd be able to use these points at Port Orleans Riverside and things like that. Fortunately, you were surrounded by people that were going to do an intervention to make sure you understood that wasn't a good idea. But I think a lot of people fall into that.
Yeah, I think so too. And I think especially people who think like me, my age, trying to ball on a budget kind of thing. I think they're all
Trying to what?
That was funny.
Ball on a budget.
ball on a budget.
I like it.
That's a funny term. I never heard that. I like that.
God, I'm old.
He's a
But-
baller.
They're going to be thinking how can I get the most out of this? And trying to stay at moderates, trying to stay at values on your points
Yeah.
is not going to be that at all. Another thing I'd like to mention that was a serious consideration for me when I was looking to buy it is, and a lot of people would fall into this window too, I think, is the 12-month window wasn't really too important to me.
11-month.
11-month window wasn't too important to me. I was just kind of planning my trips more like you were, Pete. So I was just trying to get the best deal on a contract. And at first glance, you might look at Vero Beach and think, oh, this is the best deal. This is the best deal for points. But something that you should consider is once that contract is actually paid off, the only thing that you have to deal with is maintenance fees. And the goal is that you can continue to take these vacations year after year with just those maintenance fees, and you don't actually have to pay your contract anymore. It's kind of like however long you drive a car after it's paid off, you kind of feel good about that. But keep in mind the Vero Beach maintenance fees are higher than normal, so that's something you need to calculate. So when I actually did look at it and I did add up and calculate the difference, things like Saratoga, even Copper Creek, if you were looking at the long game, were better than Vero Beach because you're going to keep paying those maintenance fees year after year.
Yeah. They say it's about a 7-year trade-off. It's a good deal for about 7 years if you owned Hilton Head or Vero. And then after that, you would have been better off buying something else. So if you're keeping the short-term 5 to 7 years, yeah, Vero's not a bad option. But if you're going long-term, more than 5 to 7 years, it's going to cost you more.
Yeah.
What else? What else do we think in terms of rookie mistakes? I'm trying to think of something else, but I'm drawing a blank.
I have one that I still get irritated about, kind of not knowing when my use year, not knowing how that would matter in the big picture of things. So I don't like when I have to have our points banked by, because it's by the end of November. And November is a really busy month for my family, at least when we lived back home, and kind of still now, but not, it's changed a little bit, but it's also important to know when your use year is when you buy, so that you know when you have to bank buy if you're going to save them for the next year. And you have to really pay attention to that, because a lot of times when you're buying, you don't think that that's really going to matter, but it really does. It really does.
Yeah, Jamie, I think, brought this up in the previous show, but the use year is pretty important. It would be considered a rookie mistake to buy the wrong month. Like if you travel the same time every year, you don't want to get a use year that's just after that typical time that you travel. You want to keep it either the month you travel or before, so that way it allows you to have the flexibility to make that trip that you normally do, or reschedule it for a later date, or even be able to bank the points. If you get a use year that's after you typically travel, and you can't go, you have to use those points. They're going to disappear. You're going to lose them. You're not going to be happy. So use year would be something to consider again. But that's if you always go typically the same time. If you're
Around
going
the
at different
same
times,
time.
it shouldn't matter.
Right.
That's the thing. Yeah. And we were And then I would get irritated because it was like, oh shoot, and we never, when you're younger and you're doing these things, you never think that anything's really going to happen. Well, of course we're always going to go at that time. There couldn't possibly be any reason why we wouldn't.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Change.
everything's magical, right? Like, so, but you really have to think about it, because these things that happen don't happen because you're on a schedule of some sort. They just happen whenever they happen. So it behooves you to pay attention to that use year, so that in case something may happen, then you can still use them next year for that same trip. Yeah.
All right. So I think, Pete, did you have something?
Yeah, one other thing I was thinking, you see happen a lot. People get confused between booking window and use year, where you'll see people say, well, I can't book yet because I'm not in my use year. I'm not in the use year of my points. And I think that's usually newer people. They don't realize that the booking window is always 11 months in front of whenever you're trying to book. It doesn't matter that you're in your use year. The use year is when you use your points. The booking window is a completely independent thing. And I think people get confused on that. They think I have to be in my use year before I can book my use year. And that's not true. You can book, if your use year starts, December 1st, I can book a trip December 5th in January of that year, even though the points aren't available in the use year until December. And I think some people get confused by that. And I've seen that a lot on the boards and even on the Facebook page some, that you have to realize that the booking window is not the same as the use year. They're two independent things.
Right. Yeah, you can book your reservations, like you said, 11 months in advance. Has nothing to do with
at your home resort.
At your home resort, or 7 months anywhere else. So, yeah, we get that question all the time. That's a good point.
And it's still easy to get confused, even when you know it. If it's not something you do every day and you don't book vacations regularly, because even me, I still have to kind of look up stuff every now and then that I just can't remember because I don't do it every day, kind of thing. So yeah, important stuff.
And member services is really good with helping. If you have questions, just call member services. You can go online and do everything through the member site, but if you have questions, just call member services and they'll say, oh, you can do this or do that.
Yeah, well, I had to do that yesterday. I screwed something up and didn't bank something I thought I had, and called member services, and they were like, no problem. They took care of it. So
nice.
No, they've been great. Every time I've called members, I got to be honest, that I'm just noticing this across the board. DVC cast members I'm coming in contact with, they seem to be more engaged, better trained, more into it than in general.
Yeah.
So it definitely seems to be a higher caliber of cast member that I've been noticing.
Yeah, I think so too.
With the ones that work for DVC.
Yeah.
And
the member services cast member, I would agree with what you just said there. When you call, they're very, very helpful, more so even than when you call, and very knowledgeable, more so even than when you call like the regular reservation line. They seem to really know their stuff around DVC.
Well, nobody is ever going to accuse the Central Reservations Office of being on the ball.
Right.
On the Disney World hotel side, no one's ever going to make that claim. Once in a while, you get a good one, but
it's completely different on DVC. Every time I've called member service, they're
well trained,
very helpful, and they really know their stuff.
They really do. They really do. So, all right, that is going to do it for this show. If you have some rookie mistakes you want to share with us, the email address is podcast@disunplugged.com. Just go ahead and put DVC rookie mistakes in the subject line so we can spot it easily. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back with you again next week with another episode of the DVC Show. Have a great week.